My name is Daniel Brooks. I am 38 years old. I live in Chicago. I work as a senior manager in a large finance company. I wear expensive suits. I drive a black luxury car. People respect me. Some even fear me. Every morning, I leave my high-rise apartment at exactly 7:30. I take the elevator down to the parking garage. I sit inside my car, start the engine, and listen to the soft sound of the air conditioner. The world outside always feels loud and messy. But inside my car, everything is quiet and perfect. That morning was just like any other day. I was wearing a dark blue suit and a silver watch. I had an important meeting at 9 a.m. My boss was flying in from New York. I could not be late. I hated delays. I hated anything that disturbed my routine. The streets were busy as usual. Cars moved slowly. Horns sounded. People rushed across the sidewalks with coffee cups in their hands. I looked at the time on my dashboard. 8:12 a.m. Then the traffic light turned red. My car stopped at a crowded intersection. It was a place I passed every day, but I never really looked around. To me, it was just another signal, just another delay. I leaned back in my seat and checked my phone. 5 new emails, 2 missed calls. My assistant had sent me a message. Reminder, big meeting at 9 o'clock. Don't be late. I know, I muttered. Suddenly, I heard a soft knock on my window. Tap, tap. I frowned. I hated when people came near my car at traffic lights. It usually meant someone was trying to sell flowers, newspapers, or just ask for money. I kept looking at my phone, pretending I didn't hear anything. Tap, tap. The knock came again, this time a little stronger. I let out an annoyed sigh. Not today. I whispered. I turned my head slowly toward the window. An old man was standing there. His clothes were worn out. His shirt was too big for his thin body. His beard was gray and unshaven. His hands looked rough and dirty. One hand rested on my window. The other held a small paper cup. He looked tired, very tired. I felt irritation rising inside me. Why do they always come to me? I thought, there are hundreds of cars here. I shook my head and waved my hand, signaling him to go away. But he didn't move. He just stood there, looking at me through the glass. There was something strange about his face. Something familiar, but I couldn't place it. I looked closer. The shape of his nose, the lines on his forehead, the way his eyes looked at me. Not with anger, not with begging, but with a quiet sadness. My chest tightened. No, that can't be, I whispered. The man leaned a little closer to the window. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear his voice through the glass. And then I saw it, a small, old scar above his left eyebrow. My heart stopped. I knew that scar. He got it when I was 10 years old. He slipped while fixing the roof of our house. I remembered the blood. I remembered my mother crying. I remembered holding his hand at the hospital. My fingers froze on the steering wheel. Dad? I whispered. The old man's eyes softened. He nodded slowly. In that moment, the noise of the street disappeared. The horns, the engines, the people shouting. Everything faded away. All I could see was my father, standing outside my car with a paper cup in his hand. My father was begging at a traffic light, and I was sitting inside a car that cost more than a house he spent his whole life paying for. The traffic light turned green. Cars behind me started honking loudly, but I couldn't move. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating so fast I could hear in my ears. How did this happen? How did my father end up here on the street like this? And why didn't I know anything about it? I lowered the window slowly. Dad, I said, my voice breaking, is that really you? My father looked at me through the open window. His eyes were tired, but they were still the same eyes I remember from my childhood. Yes, Daniel, he said softly. It's me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands were still on the steering wheel, but they felt numb. The cars behind me were still honking. A driver leaned out his window and shouted, "Move!" I didn't care. "Get in," I said quickly. Please, Dad, get in the car. He hesitated. He looked at the clean leather seat, then at his dirty clothes. I'll make it dirty, he said quietly. I don't care, I replied. Just get in. He opened the door slowly and sat down. He closed it gently, as if he was afraid he might break something. The car suddenly felt very small. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I didn't know where to look. At the road? At him? At my own hands? Finally, I asked the question that was burning inside me. What are you doing out there? I said, why were you begging? He kept his eyes on his hands. It's a long story, son. Then tell me. I said, start from the beginning. He took a deep breath. You remember the factory where I worked? He asked. Yes, I said. You worked there for 30 years. He nodded. 32 years. I gave my whole life to that place. One day, they said they didn't need me anymore. The company was cutting costs. Older workers were the first to go. I frowned. You never told me that. He gave a small, sad smile. You were very busy. Big job, big office, important meetings. I didn't want to bother you. His words felt like a small knife in my chest. So what did you do after that? I asked. I used my savings, he said. I paid the bills. I fixed the house. I thought I would find another job. But no one wanted to hire an old man. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. You could have told me. I would have helped you. He looked at me for the first time. There was no anger in his eyes, just a quiet truth. Would you? He asked gently. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Images from the past filled my mind. My father standing in the kitchen while I was getting ready for work. Daniel, he would say, the roof is leaking again. I think we need to fix it soon. I'm busy, Dad, I would reply. Just call someone. Another memory. He was sitting in the living room, holding some papers. These are the hospital bills, he said. My back is getting worse. I might need surgery. I didn't even look up from my laptop. I'll send you some money later. I have an important deadline. Another memory. He stood near the door with a small bag. I think I'll stay with Friend for a while, he said. I don't want to disturb your life. I barely noticed. Do whatever you want, Dad. Just don't forget to lock the door. Back in the car, my throat felt tight. Why didn't you tell me things were this bad? I asked. He looked out the window at the passing buildings. I didn't want to be a burden. You worked so hard to build your life. I didn't want to stand in your way. You're my father, I said, my voice shaking. You're not a burden. He gave a soft, tired smile. That's kind of you to say now. His words hit me like a punch. The traffic moved slowly ahead of us. I didn't even remember driving. My mind was lost in the past. I saw myself as a child. My father was teaching me how to ride a bicycle. He ran behind me, holding the seat, even though his knees were already weak. Don't be afraid, Daniel, he said. I'm right here. I saw him working late at night, fixing broken machines at the factory. His hands were always covered in grease, but he still smiled when he came home. All this is for you, son, he used to say, so you can have a better life than me. And he was right. I had a better life, a much better life. But somewhere along the way, I had left behind. I swallowed hard. Where have you been living? I asked. In a small shelter, he said. Sometimes with an old friend. Sometimes on the street. It depends. My chest tightened again. How long? He thought for a moment. Almost a year. A year? I repeated. You've been like this for a whole year, and I didn't even know? He didn't answer. The silence between us was heavy. I looked at him again. His face was thinner. His hair was almost completely white. His hands were shaking slightly. This was the man who once carried me on his shoulders. And now, he was begging at traffic lights. My eyes burned. I blinked quickly, trying to hide the tears. Dad, I said, come home with me. Please, you can stay at my place. You'll have your own room. I'll take care of everything. He didn't look at me. Instead, he stared straight ahead at the road. "Let's just talk first," he said quietly. "There are some things you should know." His voice sounded calm, but something in it made my heart beat faster. I had a strange feeling that this conversation was about to change everything. I drove without thinking. The road stretched ahead, but my mind was somewhere else. I pulled into a quiet parking lot near a small park. It was a place I had never noticed before. I turned off the engine. The car became silent. For a moment, neither of us spoke. My father looked out a window at the trees. A few children were playing near a swing. Their laughter floated through the air. He watched them quietly. "You used to love the park," he said. "Every Sunday, you would ask me to take you there." I forced a small smile. "Yeah, I remember." "You were afraid of the big slide," he continued. "You always held my hand before going up." I looked down at my hands. They were resting on the steering wheel, strong and steady now. But once, they were small and afraid. "Dad," I said softly, "please come home with me. We can fix everything." He shook his head slowly. "It's not that simple, Daniel." "Why not?" I asked. "I have money. I have space. You don't have to live like this anymore." He finally turned to look at me. His eyes were calm, but very serious. "Money is not the problem," he said. "It never was." His words fell heavy. "Then what is the problem?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "Do you remember the last night we lived in the same house?" he asked. My stomach tightened. I did remember, but it was not a memory I liked. "That was years ago." I said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "But for me, it still feels like yesterday." I looked away. I didn't want to hear this. But he continued. "You came home late from work. You were angry. You said your boss shouted at you. You said your day was terrible." I could see the scene in my mind. The dark living room, my loosened tie, the empty dinner plate on the table. "I asked you if you wanted some food," he said. "You shouted at me. You said I should stop acting like your servant." My chest felt tight. "I didn't mean that." I whispered. He didn't react. He just kept speaking in the same calm voice. "Then I told you about the electricity bill. I said we needed to pay it soon. You got even angrier." I closed my eyes. The memory was clear now. "I'm tired of this," you said. My father continued. "All you do is sit at home and spend my money." My hands started to shake. "I was just stressed," I said. "Work was hard." I didn't mean those words. He nodded slowly. "Maybe you didn't, but I heard them, every single one." The silence in the car grew heavier. Later that night, he said, "You told me something else. Do you remember?" I swallowed. "No." He looked straight into my eyes. "You said, if you can't take care of yourself, maybe you shouldn't live here anymore." My heart dropped. I remembered. I had said those exact words. At that time, I thought they were just angry words. Nothing serious. Just something people say in the heat of the moment. But for him, they were real. "After you went to your room," he said, "I sat in the living room for a long time. I looked at the walls, at the old photos, at your mother's chair." His voice became softer. "I realized something that night. That house was no longer my home. It was just a place where I was not wanted." A sharp pain spread through my chest. "So the next morning," he continued, "I packed a small bag and left. I didn't want to be a burden to you." "Dad, I didn't mean it like that," I said quickly. "I was just angry. I was tired." He gave a gentle smile. "I know, but words have weight. Son, sometimes they stay in a person's heart for years." I felt tears building in my eyes. "Why didn't you come back?" I asked. "Why didn't you call me?" He looked out the window again. "Pride, maybe? Or maybe I just want to see if you would look for me." My throat tightened. "And did I?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. We both knew the truth. I had been busy with promotions, meetings, and business trips. I told myself I was building a better life. But I never once stopped to ask where my father was or how he was living. I failed you, I whispered. He shook his head. No, Daniel, life is not about blaming each other. We all make mistakes. But you ended up on the street, I said, my voice breaking. That's not just a small mistake. He placed his tired hand on the dashboard. I learned something out there, he said. When you have nothing, you see the world more clearly. Some strangers gave me food. Some gave me blankets. People with very little still shared what they had. He looked at me again. But the person I wanted kindness from the most was my own son. His words cut deeper than anything else. Tears rolled down my face. I didn't even try to stop them. I'm sorry, Dad, I said. I'm so sorry. He nodded gently. I know you are, he said. I can see it in your eyes. I wiped my face with my sleeve. Please come home with me. Let me fix this. Let me take care of you now. He stayed silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, let's see if some things can still be fixed or some doors have already closed. His words filled me with fear. For the first time in my life, I felt like all my money, all my success, meant nothing at all. The car was still parked near the small park. Children were laughing in the distance, but inside the car, the air felt heavy. I wiped my eyes and looked at my father again. He looked tired but calm, almost peaceful. Dad, I said, please come with me. I don't want you to spend another night on the street. Not after today. He looked down at his hands. They were thin and rough. The hands that once carried heavy machines, fixed broken doors, and held my bicycle seat, so I wouldn't fall. I'm not angry with you, Daniel, he said quietly. I never was. His words surprised me. You're not. He shook his head. No, you were young. You were busy. The world teaches people to chase success. It doesn't always teach them how to take care of the people who love them. I swallowed hard. Then come home. Let me do the right thing now. He didn't answer right away. He looked out the window again. A small boy was running toward his father near the swings. The man picked the boy up and spun him in the air. Both of them were laughing. My father watched them for a long moment. You know, he said softly, when your mother died, you were only 12. You cried all night. You held my shirt and said, Dad, don't ever leave me alone. I felt my chest tighten. I promise you I never would, he continued. And I kept that promise. I stayed. I worked. I cooked. I cleaned. I tried to be both a father and a mother to you. Tears rolled down my face again. I know, I whispered, and I forgot all of that. I forgot everything you did for me. He turned to me with a gentle expression. No, son, you didn't forget. You just moved too fast. Sometimes life runs so quickly that we leave our hearts behind. The words felt simple, but very deep. I took a deep breath. Come home with me. Please. We'll start over. I'll cook for you. I'll take you to the doctor. We'll fix everything together. He studied my face carefully, as if he was searching for something. Do you really want that? He asked. Yes, I said without hesitation. More than anything. He nodded slowly. All right, he said. I'll come with you. But not because I need your money, and not because I have nowhere else to go. Then why? I asked. He placed his hand gently on my arm. Because you finally open your heart, and that is worth more than any house or car. My vision blurred with tears. Thank you, Dad, I whispered. We drove back to my apartment in silence. But this silence felt different. It was not heavy or painful. It felt calm, almost peaceful. When we reached the building, I parked the car and stepped out. I walked around to his side and opened the door for him. He smiled faintly. You never did that before. I'm learning, I said. We entered the lobby together. The security guard looked surprised, but he said nothing. We stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, I realized something strange. For years, I had ridden this elevator alone, every day, up and down, always in a hurry, always thinking about meetings, money, and promotions. But that day, For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was going home. When we entered my apartment, my father looked around slowly. The place was big, modern, and clean, but it suddenly felt cold to me. He noticed a photo on the shelf. It was an old picture of me as a child, sitting on his shoulders. "You kept this," he said with a soft smile. "Of course," I replied. "You're the reason I'm here." He turned toward me. "No, Daniel, you are here because of your hard work. But never forget who held the ladder while you were climbing." I nodded. That evening, I cooked dinner for the first time in years. It wasn't perfect. The rice was a little too soft, and the soup had too much salt. But my father ate every bite. "This is the best meal I've had in a long time," he said. I smiled, even though my eyes were wet. After dinner, we sat quietly in the living room. No TV, no phones, just the two of us. "Dad," I said, "I promise you something." He looked at me. "From today on, I will never let you feel unwanted again. Not in my home, not in my life." He nodded slowly. "That's all a father ever wants," he said. "Not money, not gifts, just a place in his child's heart." That night, as I lay in my bed, I realized something I had never understood before. Success is not the size of your house. It is not the price of your car. And it is not the number in your bank account. Real success is when the people who love you still have a place in your life. Because money can build a big house, but only love can turn it into a home.